gonna take money.
I want to get to the breaking news we have just heard. The FBI has apparently just served subpoenas to several officials here in Minneapolis, including members of the office of Governor Tim Walz. We will bring you more information as we get it on those subpoenas. Meantime, the number of protesters out here at the federal building is diminishing every day, it seems. But the war of words between local officials and the Trump administration.
So you have Jonathan Hunt with Fox News there reporting on subpoenas being issued. Fox News reports, sources told Fox News that the Department of Justice served grand jury subpoenas on Tuesday to 5 Minnesota government offices as part of a federal investigation into alleged conspiracy to coerce or obstruct federal law enforcement during ongoing U.S. immigration and customs enforcement, that's ICE, operations in Minnesota. Let's go to our legal expert friend Gregg Jarrett here with us, Fox News legal analyst, also very, very well-versed on all of these types of legalities. Greg, welcome back to the show. We appreciate you being here. Would like to know more about these
good to be with you.
Subpoenas.
Happy to be with you.
Thank you. What kind of action was the Department of Justice taking here? What happens next?
Well, it's thoroughly justified. The Department of Justice has the authority, and I think ample grounds, to serve grand jury subpoenas on, the offices of the mayor, the state attorney general, Governor Tim Walz, to determine whether people in government conspired to impede or obstruct ICE agents in the performance of their legal duties. If they did, those would be crimes. So, I think the DOJ is looking for records and communications, other documents. Maybe they're looking for whistleblowers. And then, of course, the next step would be to question people. Now, I'm not saying charges are going to be brought, but the investigation itself is justified. Because the public comments made by Tim Walz, Jacob Frey, the mayor, they do show that they ginned up the rage and inflamed what turned out to be violence that then escalated. The Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, said that, when the mayor and governor threatened officers, encouraged people, to follow them, to film them, that's code for harassment, and that's very close to a federal crime. And, he's right about that. If it was done, and that's a big if it was done with the intent to interfere with federal law enforcement, you can look it up. It's a crime under 18 U.S.C. 111 and 372. And it doesn't matter if you're a governor or mayor. The law doesn't care who you are. So we'll see where this goes. As I say, it doesn't mean necessarily that there'll be charges brought, but the investigation has a lower threshold, and the DOJ is entitled to do it.
Yeah, I've heard, Gregg Jarrett, that no one is above the law. So I guess that maybe we're in that kind of territory in Minnesota right now. I want to ask you to kind of weigh in on the legal authority, the presence of ICE in Minneapolis, in Minnesota. There's a lot of accusations from the left, people there that are elected officials, of course, in the Democratic Party, but also a lot of pundits on television saying they want, I don't know, I'll just quote Jacob Frey almost, to ICE to get the F out of Minneapolis. Does ICE have legal authority to do the business that they're doing right now in Minneapolis?
Oh, absolutely. It's a constitutional authority under the Supremacy Clause, which, if a state objects to what the feds are doing, federal law prevails. And the, federal law entitles ICE to go to any of the 50 states and, upon probable cause, make arrests for people who should be deported. And particularly, they're focusing on violent illegals who've committed crimes. What I find so incomprehensible is that, Walz and Frey and others, they're siding with violent illegals that federal agents are trying to remove from the streets. And, we're talking about murderers, rapists, terrorists, child molesters. I mean, these are criminals who were victimizing the innocent people of Minnesota. And, you know, I mean, who's against arresting criminals? Well, apparently Walz and Frey are. And it's hard to comprehend how anybody, particularly elected officials, who have a sworn duty to uphold the law and protect their citizens, would oppose arresting predators in their midst who are harming, the citizens of Minnesota. So, I think some of this, as I said last night on the air, I think some of this is a way of distracting from Tim Walz's role in the multi-billion-dollar fraud scandal that has ruined his political fortunes. A criminal referral has already been sent to the DOJ against Walz. If he actively covered up the fraud, tried to scuttle investigations, and there is credible evidence of that already, he could be in legal jeopardy for aiding and abetting and accessory after the fact. I wrote an entire column about it for Fox News.
Yeah. Gregg Jarrett speaking with us, Fox News legal analyst. I hear a lot of people say, and they've been saying this the entire time since President Trump got elected and then, of course, took office 1 year ago, they want to see people arrested. They want to see justice be served. And we saw this weekend the storming of this worship service inside a sanctuary, people minding their own business, worshiping in a house of God. These people come in, they say they have a right to be there, First Amendment and all. People are now calling for charges to be filed against Don Lemon, among the other individuals who stormed that church. Do you think we're going to see any arrests be made in lieu of that particular event?
Oh, I absolutely do. I mean, look, Don Lemon, not a genius, doesn't seem to know that the right to protest does not extend to private property. And certainly not to churches, which are protected spaces by law. There are two different laws. The mob that stormed the church and harassed, and I think if you look at the video, terrorizing the congregation, including children, during a church service, they can and absolutely should be prosecuted for a variety of crimes that would include typically the state charges, trespass, disorderly conduct, disturbing a religious meeting, but also the federal civil rights laws that include the FACE Act, which has a very specific provision, Section 2, that protects houses of worship from threats, intimidation, and obstruction. And Don Lemon himself could also be prosecuted as a very willing participant who joined in, and it appears he embedded himself with the anti-ICE agitators, knowing full well what they intended to do. And, calling yourself a journalist, sorry, but that's not a defense. And the First Amendment is not a shield from criminal charges. I mean, the sum total of what Don Lemon knows about the law and Constitution could be written on a Post-it note.
Gregg Jarrett speaking with us right now. I think it's interesting, too. There's a lot of context. Like, how could you know what Don Lemon was thinking when he went in there? He said he was just covering the event. Well, there's a lot of video of him holding the camera up to his own face, talking about the things he was thinking before and during and after this event took place, including a lot of comments about race that were involved, accusing people of being white supremacists just by virtue of being in that worship service.
Yeah, I mean, Don Lemon seems determined at every turn to prove that he's a complete dope. And, he's succeeding. Congrats, Don. You've proven it. His entire career is composed of one episode after another where he says shockingly stupid things and acts like an idiot, which is, of course, why he got fired from CNN. But if you, set aside all his pompousness and obnoxiousness, he, as I said, could be charged with various crimes. And on top of it all, he unwittingly incriminated himself on video. Annie, as you're alluding to, he confronted the pastor with contentious questions. And, by arguing they all had a right to be there, which, of course, is not true. And so that goes to his intent. There are several laws that prohibit what Don Lemon and others did. And then he later made matters worse by calling the worshipers entitled white supremacists, which only adds the element of racism into the civil rights crimes that I described. So, he violated both the FACE Act and 18 U.S.C. 247, which is a companion civil rights law. And, he ought to spend a few moments trying to educate himself before he does something incredibly foolish.
I think it would be foolish for both of us to hold our breath waiting for him to do that. Gregg Jarrett speaking with us right now. Last question before we let you go. We're very grateful for your time here on the Annie Frey Show. Just on a broad scope of what is taking place in Minnesota, these conversations about protests and impeding ICE and all of that, these are all conversations that are taking place right now in large scope instead of discussions about fraud and how some of these elected officials, I don't know which one's worse. Are you the governor of the state of Minnesota that is being defrauded to the tune of potentially hundreds of billions of dollars? Did you not know any of this was happening? Is that worse than knowing it was all happening and not doing anything about it? Are there going to be, do you think that the follow through exists right now with the people who have the ability to investigate and to prosecute the fraud that is taking in Minnesota? Will we see action?
Oh, absolutely. Look, a lot of people, I think more than 70 already, have been convicted. I frankly wouldn't rely on state officials, but rather the Department of Justice, federal officials who have moved in there significantly and are undertaking intensive investigations into, who did what. As I pointed out in a column over the weekend, there is a guy who's got, some serious problems, and that's Keith Ellison, the state attorney general. There seemed to be a pay-to-play and a quid pro quo that was uncovered in an audio recording of a 2021 conversation between Ellison, again, the state attorney general, and the Somali hustlers who were soon after convicted of scamming millions of dollars. And they're heard on this tape leaning hard on the AG to protect them, that's a quote, in exchange for support and monetary campaign donations. Well, that's called bribery in the most basic sense. So, don't trust state officials to crack down on the fraud. They have a vested interest in keeping it going. I think it's up to the feds to really do the hard work. And, the estimate has been $9 billion. I suspect by the end it'll be at least double that.
Man. A lot going on in Minnesota. Gregg Jarrett, thanks for the legal analysis, as always, here. We always appreciate you bringing some common sense and clarity to these issues. A lot of politics being thrown around, but the legal stuff, that's where we're always super interested in getting the facts.
My pleasure, Annie. Take care.
You as well. Bye-bye. Gregg Jarrett, Fox News legal analyst, former defense attorney and law professor. Check out his books. Great books, especially if you're like, what's the entire background that brought us to